So how do we do this? Well, we first need to figure out what are we protecting, just like before when we were talking about the risk management. What information assets are we going to protect? Because not all information has to be protected. Not all information is sensitive. We need to define the levels that we're going to use. Maybe we're going to use classified, private, and public. We have to define those. Then we define a criteria that we're going to look a little bit more into, but how do you actually classify data? Because you don't want people to just wing it. You actually have a criteria to determine what goes into private, what goes into public. So then you come up with your handling and labeling procedures, which means how does this information get moved around, who can move it, and it needs to be labeled. And this is another way where information is being lost. You know, backup tapes disappear, and companies will actually sell off their systems, and they haven't wiped their hard drives, and it still has sensitive data there. So then you need to define who the owners are, who's responsible for the different data sets, and then you come up with the level of protection that's required per classification. So if you have confidential, it requires this level of protection. If you have private, it requires this level of protection. And you need to integrate it into your security awareness training and any other training programs, because users need to know what to do or how to deal with this type of information. You know, if something's marked confidential, who can have it, who can't have it, how am I supposed to move it around? So you have to inform the people who will be working with the data. So the first thing you do is develop a policy. Policy is at a high level, and it's going to lay out a lot of the things that we just talked about. The data owner, what the data owner's responsibility is, what the classifications that are going to be used, what the definition is per classification. So you have a policy that outlines everything that's been decided upon. And then you have to have your procedures and guidelines and standards. So we have to spell out, how do we classify information? How do we change the classification? Because sometimes things can be declassified, or sometimes it becomes more sensitive. How do we destroy the data? And another domain, we're going to talk about how to securely destroy sensitive data. But these are all the things that have to be considered, and that's why it sounds like data classification is an easy process, but there's actually a lot involved.